Let's get back to the president's speech that he had today. It was the first economic speech that he's given so far this year. And in it, he was touting his economic record, portraying it as something absolutely remarkable.
Now we got to protect those gains. We got to protect those gains that our policies have generated. Protect them from the MAGA Republicans in the House of Representatives who are threatening to destroy this progress.
Wow, protect all the gains. I passed my station on the way here this evening. Gas is up 30 cents a gallon in the last week, protecting the gains. The speech the president gave today was in the suburbs of Virginia. And all of this is looming at a time when we're having a debate about $31 trillion of national debt. We have a debt ceiling debate that's underway. Joining me now to discuss this is Washington Times congressional reporter Harris Alic. He has been covering this, the buildup of this speech for quite some time. Harris, thank you so much for joining us again on Washington Watch. We're glad to have you.
Always a pleasure to be on with you, Jody. This speech was quite a doozy, as you said, and I think it's one of the first speeches that we've seen where the president is really trying to set the narrative for how he wants the debt ceiling fight to play out over the next few months. He's coming off some fairly decent GDP numbers showing the economy grew at a 2.9% rate over the past quarter, and he's attempting to use this to kind of create this narrative for both Democrats and Republicans out there that the economy is rosy. There's absolutely no need to change horses in midstream. And this comes just as House Republicans are gearing up for a big fight over raising the debt ceiling, which is the cap at which the government can borrow to meet its expenditures. Republicans are willing to raise the debt ceiling provided they receive adequate spending cuts to rein the federal budget in. President Biden obviously does not want to do this. So he's out here setting the record and saying, look, the economy is great. Republicans want to upend this entire stability that we have, these good times. And this is essentially attempting to portray Republicans as being fringe and radical and attempting to show that, you know, the stability and the boom times of the Biden administration could very, very well be jeopardized. Now, the president, obviously, I don't know if he believes these statements himself, but it's certainly all part and parcel of a bigger strategy in which he's hoping to demoralize Republicans, hurt them ahead of these negotiations so they walk into them vulnerable, with polls showing that the situation, with polls showing Americans don't necessarily view them favorably. I'm not sure if this is going to work, Jody, but it's definitely interesting to see happen.
Yeah, I don't have a great deal of confidence that this is going to be successful for him. I mean, there's so many issues, and you brought up a number of things. I mean, he referred to the mega economic plan and somehow that Republicans are the enemies of a strong economy, all these sorts of things. He has been saying over and over repeatedly that he is not going to negotiate. And really, this attitude came across in the speech, didn't it?
Absolutely. And this is an attitude that he's shown for quite some time. And this is something that we've seen from President Biden. We saw it, he kind of plays two different games, right? He's the uniter in chief, and he goes out and he gives these speeches talking about wanting to move past the era of division. And then he also goes out and he attacks MAGA Republicans and labels a large portion of Republicans extremists. And for a large part, this isn't anything new that we've seen. We are seeing it now kind of meld in with this broader economic message, but it's certainly something that I think has hurt him in the past. But also, I mean, we saw him use this message quite a few times on the campaign trail last year, and it seemed to have worked with some Democrats because mainly it was focusing on topics like abortion and on topics that for the most part, most Americans, weren't necessarily were heavily divided on. With the economy, polls show over and over again that President Biden does not poll well with the economy, that American people have a tendency to trust Republicans more on this issue. So it's kind of interesting to see him try to use the extremist label in an effort to do that when polls show that most Americans do think that Republicans would be better for the economy overall.
Okay, so your opinion with this. I mean, here he is attempting to portray Republicans and their agenda, if you will, their plan for a strong economy as extremist. How is this message going to be received? Do you think people are going to buy it?
We've got a long time until the 2024 presidential election. I'm not necessarily sure how people are going to buy it. I think both camps are heavily divided. I think, Democrats are going to view this and they say, That's right. That's exactly what we feel. And Republicans are going to say, there he goes again. And I think the middle people are going to, the great American people in the middle are probably going to view this, and they're going to say, well, maybe there's some truth to this message, maybe there isn't. But I think at the end of the day, the economy is a bigger issue. And I think, as you said, when you're dealing with high gas price, when you're dealing with 8% inflation, it's kind of difficult to blame the other guys as being extremists when you're presiding in the White House. The buck stops with you. So I think to be determined. That's how I would leave it, Jody.
Yeah, well, the buck does stop there, and we're dealing with $31 trillion of debt, trillions and trillions of spending in the last couple of years. And, I think this speech was clearly a strategic effort by the White House to try to prime the public for this debt ceiling debate that's coming. How do you see this debt ceiling battle playing out?
Absolutely. Well, look, this debt ceiling fight that's looming is power politics at its best, right? Republicans now control the House, and they've got some leverage, and a debt ceiling hike can't happen without them. And at the same point in time, Democrats know that. And as gargantuan as the federal budget is, there are certain areas of it that are untouchable. Defense spending for a while has been untouchable. Medicare and Social Security for a while have been untouchable. So the areas where that would be prime for cutting are going to be areas, these little tiny slivers that substantially aren't necessarily politically popular, that aren't bipartisan, areas that only Democrats care about, like climate change, like electric vehicle credits, like issues like CRT, issues that frankly couldn't pass muster in a Republican administration. But President Biden is the president, and those are his priorities. So he understands fully well that if Republicans succeed in pushing these spending cuts through, if he has to concede, that's going to jeopardize the next 2 years of his administration. It's going to jeopardize his ability to push through some of these things that may not be broadly politically popular, but are vital to the Democratic agenda. So this is a power fight, Joe. That's what it is, and it'll be fun to watch.
It is going to be fun and interesting to watch. Harris, I want to thank you for joining us this evening on Washington Watch. Your insight is always greatly received. We appreciate it very much. Thanks for being with us this evening.